Good morning, everybody and anybody. Today I am on the wife's bike. There's nothing wrong with mine, but there has been something wrong with this one for a while. See, this one doesn't get ridden very much, and so things start to go wrong. Carburetors start getting gunked up, battery dies. I've replaced the battery on this bike 4 times. You'd think I would have learned something, but no. So this here is it's a Suzuki GS500F. And you know, it's not a bad little bike. So she's probably going to start riding pretty soon. And I'm just trying to make sure that this thing is going to get her where she needs to go. So far, so good. This bike has always had a fuel filter just below the carburetors, and it's always looked a little shoddy too. And I've always left it there because I figured, well, what harm does a fuel filter do? Well, apparently the fuel filter had gotten a little hot, I guess, being placed where it was, and had melted just a little bit. So I decided I would just get a new fuel line and take that filter right out of there. Now here's a question for you. Let me set up the question. Maybe you can answer this. The first bike that I owned was a little Honda Twin Star 200. And it doesn't have any fairings on it or anything. It's not one of those. It's like the tiniest little cruiser you can get. And it didn't do what this one does. One thing that this bike does, and I don't know if there's something wrong with the bike or if it's just something that a smaller displacement bike tends to do, but what this bike does is, as you're riding along, it rides along just fine. But when you get a crosswind of any kind whatsoever, it feels like you start hitting thick pockets of air. It's not a constant, steady thickness feeling. That's the best way I can describe it, is that it's just like a thick pocket of air. This thing does hold the line really good though. I mean, you can drive this thing without any hands whatsoever, but that's not a good idea. Don't forget I did that. Edit that out. And so I guess why I'm asking is I don't know if the V-Strom just has a bit of a difference of power to where you don't feel that in a crosswind, and maybe the little 200 doesn't have any fairings, and so it doesn't tend to pick up that much wind. I don't know. But if you're not going into some kind of crosswind, this bike actually goes really, really good. So if you know the answer, I've never actually ridden like a Ninja 250 or a CBR 250 or whatever. But do those smaller displacement bikes tend to do that? Just be a little more affected by the crosswind? Because I really don't know. It does ride pretty nice. It's very lightweight. I think this bike is about 100 pounds lighter than mine. Plus it's a lot lower to the ground. So it holds the line really, really good. I think if you pick a part of the road that you want to be on, it just stays there. It goes in a straight line so good. It's very flickable. That is one thing I've always liked about this bike. And another thing is, when you let off the gas, it hardly has any engine braking, which is nice in some ways, not nice in others. Not nice in others. Yeah, like you can coast and just not have to worry about the throttle at all. On the V-Strom, you let off the throttle, you're like, ugh, man, this thing's actually running really good. That's what it looks like. Let's see how this bike handles the bypass. The bypass is kinda new to this town. Now, as far as like air to the engine goes, I don't have like a vacuum leak. I don't see how a crosswind can create that, unless it's creating some kind of suction so that the engine can't get enough air. I don't know if it's possible. So overall, it seems like this bike's running pretty good. I just wanted to ride it for a bit. That way my wife doesn't end up stranded with it. So if you know what that might be, whether you be like maybe a mechanic or just a smaller displacement sport bike owner or whatever, if you think you might know what that is, let me know in the comments, because I'd like to know why it feels like you're just going through thick air every once in a while. I hate it when people do that. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.